Hello and welcome to the 95th episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill.
And I guess
And
let's start with the incredible NFL action today.
uh, and I was supposed to be at the Dolphins game, and I never made the game. And I got to my hotel room, and I turned on the TV. Okay,
Okay.
because I had to go somewhere. So I turned on the TV, and I saw this big pass interference penalty on the Dolphins and put the Patriots on inside the 5-yard line. So I turned off the TV. And I left, assuming the Patriots were going to score and run out the clock, and that was going to be the end of the game. So lo and behold, when I got to the restaurant, and this guy said, "Hey, you must be excited," because I dressed to go to the Dolphins game. I had a Dolphins jacket, and a Dolphins hat on. And the guy says, "Oh, you must be excited." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "That last-minute victory." And I go, "You mean they beat the Patriots in the last second?" He goes, "The last play of the game."
Yeah.
And then what I found out is it's the longest yardage play to end a game in NFL history.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was one of those Gronkowski had a shot at him, but he fell down at the end. You feel like
and the talking heads were talking about that Gronkowski was in there to prevent a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But not to prevent this play.
No, but you figure younger super athletic freak Gronk would have just knocked him out of bounds anyway.
Yep.
But older, beat up Gronk was able to got his feet kind of tangled up and just fell down. So, and then, which would have been good news for us, along with the Ravens' loss. But then the Steelers went into Oakland and pooped the bed, as they say.
Yeah. Rosberg got hurt.
He did, but
he goes back in like Super Ben, like he always does.
Yeah. But it is a weird one, and I watched part of Tomlin's press conference afterwards because he didn't look that great in the beginning. The first touchdown he overthrew, and Juju made an incredible play. He missed Juju Smith-Schuster on another wide-open touchdown.
I think he was 24 for 28, though.
I know, but people were making some pretty insane catches. There was a lot of screen passes and short passes, and then a couple of Juju plays where he just made out-of-this-world catches. I think two of which were challenged, actually. But he was back probably early in the third quarter. And it was hard to say, if he was good enough to play at the end, I don't know why he didn't come in sooner, I guess. But back to the Dolphins game, the Steelers ran a hook and ladder as well. They got the ball at the 30 with 20 seconds left. They ran the hook and ladder to Juju Smith-Schuster. James Washington made a great play. They got it all the way down to a 40-yard field goal. And then Chris Boswell slipped and kicked the ball into his lineman's butt for his second missed field goal of the game. And the Steelers ended up losing. And the Raiders celebrated like they won the Super Bowl, including Gruden, who seemed incredibly happy today.
For their third win.
For their third win, yes.
And they beat the Steelers 2 other times when they've only had 2 wins.
Yeah. There was that crazy Terrell Pryor game where Terrell Pryor was a quarterback in the NFL for a short period of time. And he broke off like a 90-yard run from scrimmage on the first play of the game against the Steelers.
Yeah. Normally with the Ravens and Patriots both losing, I would be ecstatic. And my day's been mitigated now.
So we also saw today, the Ravens gave the Chiefs everything they could handle. If they trusted Lamar Jackson, or if Lamar Jackson was able to make a few throws, they win that game. I know at the end he got knocked out and RG3 came in through a terrible pass to end the game, but it just seemed like anytime they needed, like a third and long, like they didn't trust him, or they didn't know what to do with him, or he couldn't make the throw. Because their defense has been stellar. Their running game is excellent. They're averaging over 200 yards a game with him in there. But they almost knocked off the Chiefs, who looked like... So the Chiefs, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Patriots, the 4 division leaders, all, it's one point considered Super Bowl contenders, all lost today.
And the Broncos and the Ravens, who are creeping up, both lost today.
They did.
Crazy day.
Very crazy day. I do like, there's something about the Colts I kind of root for. Just, I like seeing Andrew Luck in the NFL doing well again. So it was kind of nice seeing them win. But there was something else in the Dolphins game that I just found fascinating.
Okay.
Frank Gore.
Yes, the ancient one. The ageless wonder.
The ageless wonder. He's now, I think, the fourth leading rusher of all time, and he just passed LaDainian Tomlinson to become fifth all time in most yards from scrimmage. And I know Frank Gore has always been a very good player, but it's crazy to think that he's going to, if aliens came down and looked at the record books, they would think Frank Gore is, because where would you put Frank Gore in the pantheon of great running backs in the NFL?
I don't think I would, but I guess for longevity, I have to.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly. I mean, you would probably name, if you're including, some of the Terrell Davis, Earl Campbell, Gale Sayers guys that just had very short, amazing, shooting star careers. Like, I feel like you'd beat 20 or 30 running backs down a list before you would get to Frank Gore, if you would even remember him. But, he's going to be top 5 rushing, top 5 all-purpose yards. He's just a model of consistency. Which, it's just weird.
And how old is he?
I think he's like 36.
Jeez.
But he just keeps churning it out. But again, like I said, he's one of those weird players where it's like, I guess on some level that you could make it the case, and I know he gets a lot more love in baseball, but like, if you look at Hank Aaron, he was never like a I mean, he played for a really long time and hit a consistent amount of home runs, He never had like,
In the 60s, he was really good. He was always in the MVP conversation. But
okay.
He played a lot longer at a higher level than Willie Mays did.
Right, but I mean, it seems like, when you look at his stats, like he was never like...
Now he hung on for a few years. Like, his years in Milwaukee weren't very good.
Yeah.
Just like Willie Mays hung on and went to the Mets, which he should have never done. He was an embarrassment as a Met.
Yeah. Whereas Frank Gore is still putting up pretty good numbers.
Yeah. What's the football? Let's think about the Heisman. Surprised or not surprised?
I think after the last game, that Tua just didn't look that great. I think it really helped him, I think all three of those guys were deserving. I mean, I think any of those three win.
I thought it was the first time where I could have made a case for any one of those players.
Yes.
And I really wouldn't have been unhappy with any of the outcomes.
No. But I did see that he wants to play baseball.
Yeah, he was the number 1 pick of the A's. He signed a contract.
Yeah. So.
Well, he's pretty slight.
He is pretty slight, yes. He's very slight. He definitely looks like...
I thought he really won a bunch of games for Oklahoma, and I don't think Tua had to win a bunch of games for Alabama.
No, I would agree with that. But, I mean, I know he is slight, and obviously, we've seen slighter guys like, RG3 come in and shine for a little bit and get destroyed. We'll see how long Lamar Jackson and, Deshaun Watson seems like he's been a lot smarter this year. But... it seems like with the way the NFL is moving more towards offense and harder to hit quarterbacks, I mean, he's obviously the number 1 pick of the A's, so I'm sure he's going to be fine in baseball, and he wouldn't be going there if that wasn't his number 1 love. But I think he could make it in the NFL.
I mean, he is fast. He's the fastest player I've seen in a long time.
I know, which would be very exciting to see him in the NFL. But I feel like he can throw, too,
He can. He's a complete player.
Yeah. Because, like I said, some of the other sort of running guys are not,
Yeah, I mean, the kid from Ohio State was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 3 great quarterbacks. Did you see the map, what they showed, how the voting went?
Yes, I did.
Like, the Tua won the Southeast, and Kyler Murray won everything else.
Yeah.
So that just shows me how delusional those SEC fans are, that they just really can't accept or see everything for what it is.
No, they can't. I mean, they're told, that they're the SEC. I mean, I guess if you look at the number of players in the NFL, the SEC is probably clearly the best division.
Mm-hmm.
But they also get bloated numbers by the fact that, obviously Alabama gets to play 4 top 20 teams because you rate every team in the SEC as a top 20 team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I made this point last week, but when an SEC team loses, they drop down 2 or 3 spots. So, a two-loss, SEC team ends up still like a 19 or 20 by the end of the season. Whereas if you're, a Conference USA team, you know, if you were top 10, you lose one game, they pretty much drop you out of the top 25, which makes whoever wins your conference, all their big win against you doesn't look as good.
True. That's exactly true.
And it's not very fair math, because
No.
it's all based on, preconceived notions of what each conference is before we've ever even played a game. And that's somewhat based on, history, and then based on, what a bunch of people recruiting high school players seem to think the high school, being like, well, they have the best draft class, the best recruiting class based on high school players who've never played against each other. So it's all a little bit.
Georgia and LSU both have 2 losses, and yet they're both ranked in the top 10.
Yeah. Which is the point. Yeah. Then it's like Alabama gets, look at their strength of schedule. It's like, well, yeah, they beat a top 10 team with 2 losses because they can't,
Yeah.
It just makes it, it's just another card stacked in that deck against anybody other than, an SEC or big power conference team doing much.
So now that we know the 4 teams are going to play, I would probably sit here and say Alabama-Clemson will be the final game. But I have to admit, I'm very, very intrigued by Oklahoma-Alabama.
That's the one, because nobody thinks Notre Dame is good. That's pretty much the consensus from everybody in the country, right?
Well, they think they're good. They don't know if they're top 4 worthy.
Right. They beat everybody on their schedule. They didn't lose a game. They're a giant program that's, good for TV dollars. But, I think most people think that Georgia... I know most people... most of the pundits still seem to say that Georgia was the second best team, despite, the loss to Alabama. They just knew they couldn't, PR-wise, put them back in there again. And I guess the argument would also be like, we just watched that game. We don't need to see that. You had your chance. You blew it. So.
Yep. Well, I don't think the networks wanted to see a rematch of that anyhow. There wasn't a demand for it.
No. And we think Saban is just going to stay, and he's fine just having being the greatest coach. He probably will never go back pro, even if they win again this year. You think?
Urban Meyer, no, I think he's done.
No, not Urban Meyer. I meant Urban Meyer. I meant Nick Saban.
Yeah, I think Saban's done. I wouldn't. If I was Saban, I wouldn't. He's God in Alabama. Why would he ever leave?
Well, because you got that stain on your resume when you were the Dolphins coach.
I'd let it go. I think everybody's forgotten that stain since he's been so dominant at the college level.
Yeah, I almost thought though, like even if you stayed one more, like if you win this year, Tua's coming back. You've got probably the top recruiting class again, and if you go back to back again and win 4 of the last 5, then maybe you give it one more shot. I don't know.
No, there's too much at risk then. If you go and you're not successful, it looks bad. Look at Spurrier now doing the old beer coach and coaching Orlando in the AAF league. That's just goofy.
Yeah.
Let it go.
No, I know. It's just that,
Be proud of what you accomplished and let it go right off in the sunset.
Okay. I see it, I guess, yeah.
But while we're talking about college football, and maybe my business moment is this. A real rash of people deciding not to play in these meaningless bowl games because they don't want to wreck their future.
Oh, I get it, though.
And you can't argue with them.
No.
Because they don't get paid. And they can really, the kid from Notre Dame that got hurt a couple years ago plays linebacker for the Cowboys. It cost him a lot of money to get hurt.
A lot of money.
And so, Ed Oliver was the first one out. Will Greer now. And I think we're up to 10 or 11.
Yeah, it's definitely been a trend that's it was 1 or 2 players, and now it's well, people say that Leonard Fournette pretty much cashed in the last 4 games of his season.
Yeah.
On top of
So my business moment is this going to ruin the rest of are we going to contract some of these bowls now, or what are we going to do to give them meaningful games? Or can we make them meaningful? Or is that cat out of the bag because we can't do anything because it's the top 4 thing, unless it's now the top 8 thing, you could rotate among the other bowls, and maybe that's the reason they'll expand. They'll expand because they could take maybe 8 different bowl games or 10 different bowl games and rotate those 4 games. Or those 8 games now that it would be, if you expand it. So maybe that's the thing. So maybe what we're going to see is if people are feeling the bowl games becoming meaningless, that means people are going to pay less for them. There's going to be less people watching them on TV. So now you have to expand the playoffs. And then you take some of those bowl games and make them more meaningful by making them part of the playoff situation. So that's my business moment. What do you think?
I think that makes sense because, again, I think this trend, like I said, it went from like one player that got a lot of crap for it a couple years ago to now, like you said, we're in double digits already this bowl season, and everybody and nobody I think is giving I'm sure there's like some hardcore fans from those schools that are upset about it, but for the most part, everyone's like, yeah, it's a smart decision.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Ed Oliver and you're guaranteed to be, I think in every mock draft he's a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have to accomplish by playing, in the Tostitos whatever bowl? And again, not that, you don't want to be there for your team, but I mean, you've got your entire future riding on this. This is why you've done everything you've done.
Yeah.
And especially because the bowl games are, a month after your season's over. You just, all it takes,
Yeah.
Just that one. Yeah, no, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
But I don't know, I mean, how much, then you'd have to shorten the regular college season, I would think, wouldn't you? If you had added all these additional bowl games.
Sure, one more round. I don't think so. I think, you're talking about playing in January. I mean, these guys are going to school at the out.
That's true.
Let's not get started on that. Let's talk NBA.
Yeah. Let's talk Luka.
Let's talk Luka. He looks unreal.
He does.
He's like a quicker Dirk.
A quicker Dirk. And he's got, I mean, you watched that Houston game where he put 11, he shot 11 straight points in the fourth quarter, including that nasty step back dagger 3 to put them up by 3. Another game they won where they beat like 3 good teams in a row. And if he ever gets with the American, with like a really hardcore diet plan, he's already fairly unstoppable. Like, who knows what,
Yeah.
Because I know he's still 19, so some of that is, but I mean, I've heard about, I've read articles about how he eats. And, he seems to really enjoy American fast food and things along those lines. So
we'll see. I mean, probably some trainer get hold of him and see what he does. But I mean, he's definitely the real deal.
And now you look at the teams that passed on him. If you're Phoenix, you now have DeAndre Ayton, who can't play a lick of defense. Was fighting with Booker the other day, that your star player who you want to cash in on. And now you've sort of got this, the guy that looks the part more than probably, any prospect recently, this 7-foot DeAndre Ayton. And I'm not saying he's going to be, he's obviously a competent player, but now they're talking about having to try to move him to the 4 because he may not be able to play the 5 because he can't protect the rim. If you're Atlanta, you got a future first round pick along with Trae Young for Luka. But Luka looks like, if he stays healthy and stays on this track, like he could be, a top 4 or 5 player in the league.
Team other than Phoenix would have had the number 1 pick, they would have taken him.
Well, Atlanta could have had him too, though, and they also,
But that was just stupid. That's Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I think Phoenix was kind of had their hands tied. They needed to take the hometown guy.
Yeah, but you look at Philly. I mean, it's not working out for them that well. But I mean, they drafted the home kid, Bridges, whose mom worked for the organization.
Yeah.
And they immediately traded him for a few.
It still surprised me.
Yeah, especially because where Philly's at. Like, if they knew they were going to go all in on not necessarily Jimmy Butler like they ended up with, but it seemed like they were pretty all in on making a move to go this year. Like, Bridges makes a lot more sense than, and obviously the thing was Zaire and I think it was a peanut allergy that led to like a staph infection in his foot somehow. Either way, he's pulling the normal Philly, taking his, sabbatical year.
Yeah.
But, it seemed like, that was a situation where Bridges just seemed to make the most sense. But I guess now that we can transition from Luka and the Mavericks, who have a 2-game lead on that other team, one of the other Texas teams, the Houston Rockets. They do not look good.
No, I didn't like the chemistry. When they went for Carmelo, that set them back.
It did. But he's gone now.
It was disruptive. He's gone, but still it was disruptive. It was saying that, well, this guy's going to help us, and what messages to send to the other guys on the team to do they were better than him anyhow.
Right, and you gave up, you obviously gave up Ariza and Luke Mabute, but some of that was supposedly, that wasn't Daryl Morey, that was ownership not wanting to pay those guys.
Yeah.
But you've locked into Chris Paul for the next 5 years at a big price. And Chris Paul looks, if you're a 6-foot point guard, you lose half a step. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so far,
the guy you're guarding now might be 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah. And he had the hamstring problem last year. He's had it all year this year. And, when you get to a certain age, like those injuries, they don't really go away.
No, they don't.
And you have to wonder, where's their future? Because you got all your money's tied up in Harden, Chris Paul, and Luke or Capella. I mean, that's
why when we were talking about Minnesota taking those draft picks from Houston for Jimmy Butler, that's why it was a really good deal, because this is this year or bust.
Yeah.
And it already looks like bust.
It does. Now, to be fair, go to that Butler trade. Sarek and Covington are pretty good players, and Minnesota's been playing a lot better.
Yeah, but and part of that is that it was just a bad situation there.
It was a bad situation, but yeah. But I guess we can finish out with the Texas trio and talk about maybe the end of Greg Popovich, who is...
Yeah, he's going to step down sooner or later. He's had a long and a very, very good run.
He has. And it's weird. I mean, that team, obviously Tim Duncan's been gone. Ginobili's gone. It's weird watching Tony Parker in the Charlotte uniform, which looks wrong. And then you thought, but there was going to be a nice transition to Kawhi Leonard, who's in Toronto. And, and all the eggheads are yelling at Popovich because Popovich saying that he doesn't enjoy three-point basketball. He said all that the beauty of basketball is gone, the nuance is gone if it's just a bunch of people jacking threes. So, but they basically called him a relic and a dinosaur for it. So,
there's probably a little bit of truth in that.
I think there's a little bit of truth on, for sure. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to watch just guys run down and shoot threes all day.
No, that's like the YMCA.
Yeah. It's one thing if you have, obviously the team that sort of pushed this besides Houston was obviously Golden State, but you have two of the probably top 10, top 20 shooters of all time in, Clay and Steph. And it's different watching Steph and Clay shoot threes as opposed to watching, some 36% three-point shooter, but the numbers say that he's better off just continuing to shoot threes because 3 is more than 2, and the numbers eventually add up.
Well, you can't argue with it. I mean, Steph has been very successful, and the Warriors have been really successful.
Right, but like I said, they have transitional players and generational players. So
they do. They have unbelievable players.
It's easy to say we want to do what they do, but they can only do it because of who they have.
We saw the Celtics set a record for their largest margin of victory ever, which is hard to believe considering how long the Celtics have been playing basketball.
I know, and when I didn't watch the game, but I read that, just the headline. And obviously, it was, 50-something points?
Yeah.
Which is an insane amount, but for some reason in my mind, I thought it would have been higher.
Yeah, you thought back in the 40s and 50s, or 56 when they dominated the league, that they would have just crushed somebody. Yeah, I agree.
When they had 12 Hall of Famers on their team and Red Auerbach as their coach.
Yeah, if they didn't have three-pointers, then you have that stuff. So
yeah,
I guess that's part of it.
And as I talked to you before air, the Bulls, after suffering that loss, apparently they don't like management. They don't like the coach they currently have, even though their other coach was fired. And there was a text conversation going around about just not showing up, which is pretty crazy.
Very crazy.
I mean, I don't know what it's like. This coach is currently like, the new guy, but I mean, he's only been there for 3 games. But,
He's been the head guy for 3 games. He's been there for a few years.
It's true, yes.
So maybe they didn't like him. They knew they didn't like him beforehand. They were upset when he made him the head coach.
Yeah, and they responded by losing to the Celtics by 50 and contemplating not showing up for work. So that's a pretty big deal, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that the Lakers seem like they're playing a lot better right now. LeBron seems very invested, very in. There's a rumor that they're trying to get Trevor Ariza from Phoenix right now in a 3-team trade. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, LeBron LeBron is, like I said, he's setting himself up for next year. He's finding out who can play, who can't play.
But these last few weeks, he's been going all out. Like, at first it seemed like he was kind of cruising, like, we'll just sort of see what happens this year. This is, it's an easy, my first year in LA, I'll go produce, Space Jam 2,
But I think part of it was he wanted to see what he had.
And now he likes what he has?
Now he likes what he has. And so now, I still think they're gunning for next year.
Yeah.
But I think he's trying to see how far they can get this year with what they have and get some playoff experience for this team and see what can happen.
Now, did you read the KD comments about playing with LeBron?
I did not.
Essentially, I mean, KD did not say anything disparaging, but it seems like the knock on him is that, if you're a role player and you play with LeBron, like a Matthew Dellavedova, a Sideshow Bob, Villanueva, those kind of guys, you get elevated. It's,
Yeah.
Whereas if you're another star, outside of basically D Wade, you have to make a sacrifice when you're playing with LeBron. And KD was basically just saying that the way the media runs things, if you win, you had LeBron. If you lose, it's Kevin Love's fault. It's Kyrie's fault. It's not, so if you go there as this, it's not LeBron himself, but it's the perception of LeBron in the media, and that, it's a no-win situation for another star to go play with him. What do you think about that?
I think there's some legitimacy to that.
I was thinking that as well, because he sort of brought up, like, if you're a role player, all of a sudden you look better than you ever been, and you're probably going to get a bigger paycheck.
Well, Delly's going back to Cleveland. They love him in Cleveland. They
do. But as LeBron sort of said slyly, well, I've been to the finals, 9 straight seasons, so, maybe that's the reason you play with LeBron. But, I mean, you look at the guys, Kawhi Leonard seemed to make it clear he doesn't want to play with LeBron. Jimmy Butler most likely will be back in Philly. And then the other, the two big free agents after that are basically Klay Thompson, who I don't think is going to leave, and then KD. But if you're KD, you can't leave for that narrative. You can't leave.
I can see Klay Thompson going to LA.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can see that would happen.
He's so quiet.
I know, that's why I think he can go.
But I mean, he's in a brand new stadium. He's got great owners, great fans. San Francisco is an awesome city.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, it's never going to be his team if he's in San Francisco, in Golden State or in LA.
That's the other reason I think he can go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he can go because he doesn't have the ego. He already doesn't have the ego.
And he's got the chips.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they were saying. The other reason that all the guys that are up for free agency this year don't have to go play with LeBron, they already have chips. They don't need to get that. They've already won championships. But like I said, I did see something terrifying I would like to talk about. Supposedly the Knicks have come out and actually said it wasn't true, but there was rumor that the Knicks were going to try to trade for John Wall in that terrible contract.
No, that doesn't surprise me either.
No.
That does not surprise me. If there's a bad move to be made, they'll make it.
I know. I'm like, hopefully somebody just went and tackled him and made him go back to the club and go play harmonica. Because it's just like...
Hey, I'm still surprised Carmelo's not back there.
I know. I'm shocked as well. Because it seems like the new management they have there is doing a pretty nice job.
Yeah.
I think they seem to be giving up on Frankie Smokes a little quick for my taste. He's only 19. I mean, maybe they think he's just never going to be able to play great, and they figure they'd cut bait now. He was a Phil Jackson pick anyway. But when I saw the John Wall thing where everyone was saying, because he's got, his contract doesn't kick in until next year. He doesn't seem to get along with his teammates. He's never in shape when he comes into the season, and he's over 30. He gets a 15% trade kicker, and he's going to be making almost $50 million when he's like 37. But as soon as then every GM is like, that's the most untradeable contract I've ever seen. And then I saw the story that the Knicks were in. I was like, no, please don't.
The Knicks have already made trades for untradeable contracts.
I know. I was like, but no, you're turning the corner now. You don't do that anymore.
Terrible. Hey, I want to talk about baseball for a minute.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, again, I've put kudos to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, yeah.
for getting Paula Goldschmidt and continuing to disprove that a small market team cannot be competitive year in, year out, because they are. They're a small market team, and they are competitive year in, year out.
They've been good for like what, the last 30 years? I don't know.
Yeah, and it bums me out because St. Louis is actually as small or smaller than Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But they just have a good baseball sense. So that's the first baseball story I want to talk about. The second one is Bryce Harper. And I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen. He turned down 10 years, $300 million to stay at the Nats.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a lot more than $300 million.
No, you were not.
And if you have a chance to end your career as a one-hat guy, and go in the Hall of Fame as a one-hat guy, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
I think so.
So I'm a little disappointed in him. I don't know what's up, but, again, his agent is Scott Boras, so that says something. But, I think the Yankees have kept the cold toward him. And so the White Sox, talking about the White Sox.
But he did have a meeting with one Irving Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Owner of the Dodgers. Or one of the owners of the Dodgers, I should say.
I don't know what they're going to do because they're so far over the cap now. If they had him, I don't know what they would do to get rid of like 9 guys.
I know. I don't think they care, though. He's a very L.A. player, though, isn't he?
Very L.A. player.
I mean, you could.
I was hoping the Angels would look at him and pair him with Mike Trout.
Like, he seems like the kind of guy that would go to L.A. and he would become way more famous. He'd start, dating actresses and, just really put himself out,
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he's going to get his form back and play as good as he did a couple years ago, but I think he would enjoy L.A.
Just like the Randy Newman song.
Yeah.
I think he would. I think it's a good point.
But like you said, I don't know how they afford him, but there's certain baseball teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, and some of them were just like, I don't know how they afford anything, but they just do. It doesn't seem like it should make financial sense, and somehow it does.
But it does.
Yeah.
You got an entertainment moment this week?
I actually started a new show. I've only watched one episode. I know the second season premieres this weekend. I started Counterpart, which is a spy show on Starz starring J.K. Simmons.
Okay.
It's a spy show with like a sci-fi twist.
Set in current times, or?
I think set in current times. I don't know how much to give away. Let's just say set in current times, maybe on multiple timelines. How's that?
Okay.
I don't think that's the first 20 minutes of episode 1, season 1, so I don't feel like I'm giving too much away. But, I mean, it's very well shot, very well done. I think J.K. Simmons is a really good actor. Obviously, he's won Oscars, too, not just State Farm commercials. So,
No, I like him. He's believable, too.
Yeah. And I think I talked about how I finished Little Drummer Girl, right? Never like that? I did.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Well, I've got a food moment.
Okay.
An amazing dinner tonight at Anthony's Runway 84 in Fort Lauderdale. Real old school mob kind of Italian place.
Okay.
I had meat lasagna it was the best lasagna I've ever ordered in a restaurant.
Wow.
Not as good as your mother's, not as good as Nana's, but a shape behind it. For a restaurant lasagna, it was far and away the best I've ever had. And you know why you would love it?
Tons of meat.
And guess what else?
Tons of cheese.
And?
Lots of sauce?
He brought it with an extra gravy boat full of sauce.
Oh, I do like that.
I know.
Yeah. You can never have enough sauce. Never enough for gravy.
No. In fact, I still ran out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't finish it. Also, the portion size was amazing.
I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise, but I know when I tell people all the time that, Tampa and Clearwater and even Orlando have great Italian scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, just watch the Mafia movies. They all go to Florida.
Yes, they do.
It shouldn't be surprising that those cities and Miami and Florida in general has great Italian food. Like,
so for with an entree, you get a salad,
mm-hmm.
and you get mussels marinara, and your entree, all for one price.
Mussels marinara?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a great dinner.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And for 2 people, and we each had a beer, was $70.
I mean, I was hoping to have a food moment. because I went back. You know that place I told you about, Moe's Pizza in
Yeah.
Gretna, Louisiana?
Yep.
It's so inconsistent. And I feel like this time I almost got like a bubbly crust instead of a real crust. I was very disappointed.
No.
You know, you can just tell, like, it just seemed like it was too. And what's really bad is, like, I've now had their pizza 4 times. Twice it was brought to me at work, and it was excellent. And twice I've gone there and I've been disappointed. But they have good sauce. They have a lot of the right elements. It just never seems to come together anymore. I've officially given up on that restaurant. I think I may have shouted them out at one point early on in the podcast, but now I'm rescinding that and giving them a negative. Throwing that out there. Yeah. Oh, but I do have I have a pseudo food moment.
Okay.
I'm probably never going to get rid of the sweet tooth. It's just something that's always going to exist, unless I burn my tongue severely, which I don't plan on doing. But I was looking into sugar alternatives, and I've done a lot of research and listened to a lot of doctors and people, and there's one that's 0 on the glycemic index and still tastes excellent.
And it is what?
Monk fruit. They make it. It's called monk fruit, but they actually make a crystallized sugar that is monk fruit. And I got to tell you, it's negligible difference.
Where did you get it?
Whole Foods.
All right.
They sell it on Amazon, but it's a little more, just for anyone that really cares, it's a little pricier on Amazon than you can get. Surprisingly, it's probably like 30% more expensive on Amazon than it is at Whole Foods, which was kind of shocking, but that's what it is. But I've had it in tea, and I had some Kodiak cake. They make these. It's like
I buy Kodiak.
Right. It's like a protein pancake,
Yep.
and I put a little bit of cinnamon sugar mix that I made with the monk fruit. Excellent. The way I would describe it is it feels and tastes just like sugar if sugar was like maybe 20% less sweet.
I can live with 20% less sweet.
Yeah. And like I said, all the doctor research I've done, because I wanted to make sure medically it was what everyone claims it. And again, it's still fairly new, but it's a 0 on the glycemic index, which, when it enters your body, it doesn't have the same glycemic, that's all the bad stuff that sugar does.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something,
Right,
if you're
so
looking for something to look
here,
into.
I'm going to try it as well.
Yeah.
Now, going the opposite direction, Jason, when you're home, I did buy that chocolate cheesecake from the nuns in New York.
Of course you did.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
The best chocolate cheesecake I've ever had.
It's pretty amazing,
So
yes.
we will have that.
Okay. Well, I sort of planned that, this is I think for everybody in the world, this is a really rough month. The Thanksgiving
Well,
through.
text me monk fruit so I can go buy some.
Okay, I'll send you a picture of the one that I actually have.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if Dad wants to tweet that out so people can see the label of it. But like I said, if you're looking for something that it's a 0 on the glycemic index and it's a nice sugar alternative, it's the first legitimate sugar alternative I've ever tasted. And according to 3 of the doctors I've looked at, for some people, now I'm not big into the whole keto thing. It's also keto friendly, believe it or not. So you can have monk fruit on the keto. You can have the monk fruit sweetener on the keto diet, which is pretty crazy because the keto diet is pretty strict. So, yeah.
All right. And there you have it, folks. We gave you lots of good stuff tonight.
Indeed. All right, so subscribe. Please join Patreon. We got some cool stuff coming up in the new year, and we can have cooler stuff if you guys help us out a little bit. And rate us on iTunes, because that would be more people will listen and hopefully all that good stuff. And it doesn't take long to rate on iTunes either. Just please do it. That really helps.
And my food moment next week will be coming from the Big Apple.
Nice. And we're out.